Albert Breer joining us live, Monday Morning Quarterback. All right. So, I'm reading all sorts of stuff. Russell, Kyler, Derek Carr. I have argued there's a market for Derek Carr, and I think Charlotte's the spot. I think Frank Reich personality, the defense, they've got a number one receiver, crappy division. Don't have to face Mahomes and Herbert every Sunday, right? Feel like every Sunday. What are you hearing on Derek Carr? You do this for a living. You break stories. What do you hear?
Yeah. So there were talks in Mobile, Alabama this week. The Raiders general manager, Dave Ziegler, was there. I think that there was more than one NFC South team that was involved in that. I think the Jets are going to be involved in it, at least discussing it. I'm not saying they're going to go get them because obviously they've been connected to Aaron Rodgers. I think the biggest problem right now, Colin, is twofold. It's his contract and it's his no trade clause.
Yeah.
And, I think you look at this and does a team want to sign up for $40.4 million? Because that's what trading for him with the existing contract means. It's $32.9 million this year. It's $7.5 million in 2024. So you're more or less signing up for 2 years of Derek Carr. Do you want to do that at that price? Especially when guys like Baker Mayfield, Daniel Jones, Jimmy Garoppolo are going to be out there for you in March. So that's the first piece of it. The second piece of it is whether or not he wants to waive his no trade clause to help the Raiders move him. What would the benefit of that be? Well, maybe you save some face. It looks better if you get traded versus getting cut. But, if he just sits there and says, I'm not going to accept a trade anywhere, then he's going to hit the free agent market on February 15th, a month ahead of the rest of those guys, which certainly could be to his advantage. So I think the likelihood here is that he gets cut, but the Raiders are certainly trying to move him. They had some talks this week in Mobile with other teams, and I'd expect for those talks to continue.
Jimmy Garoppolo, Niners say he's not going to be here. I kind of believe him because they got to at least kick the tires on Trey Lance, Brock Purdy. I don't, there was a lot of Brady to the Raiders talk. I don't think Aaron's going to end up there, nor does he want to be there. Garoppolo Raiders feels possible, right?
Yeah, I think Jimmy's going to have options. Like, I think, you look at where Jimmy's been and his background, certainly the Raiders make a ton of sense. And they could plug him in where he could be sort of that Alex Smith in Kansas City type of quarterback for them while they survey the market over the next few years to find the long-term answer. He's got the relationships with the Jets as well. If they can't go and get Aaron Rodgers, does Jimmy Garoppolo become a fallback plan there? Of course, he was in San Francisco with Robert Saleh. And Tampa's another one where they've been running a version of the Patriot offense the last couple of years with Tom Brady there. So does it make sense for them to seamlessly move from Tom Brady to Jimmy Garoppolo, which was the intention in New England for all of those years? So I think Jimmy's going to have some options out there. Again, what could kind of depress the market for these guys is the amount of guys that are out there where, you could look at it, you could say, do I want Derek Carr or Jimmy Garoppolo at, call it $25 million per? Or do I think I can get a Baker Mayfield at $10 million per and he can give me a comparable level of play?
Yeah.
That's where I think this becomes interesting. But Jimmy's certainly going to have some options out there.
Okay, so the Kyler Murray situation, NFL jobs, there's not many. They're all considered good. They pay multiple millions a year. You get a guaranteed 3-4 year contract. Even if you fail, it's a parachute contract. You go off to the beach and hang out. And yet Arizona, the reports are, nobody wants the job. I threw up this balloon. I said, if you look at their schedule, they get the AFC North and the NFC East. A lot of playoff-level teams. Mm-hmm. They get Atlanta at home, and they do get the Bears and Texans on the road. But it is a tough schedule. Dallas, Niners, Philly.
Yeah.
I said, Kyler's not playing for 9-10 weeks. Sit him, use a backup, and go draft Caleb Williams. And just say, you know what? Kyler's going to pout on the bench. He'll want to trade. You can move him. But drastic times, drastic measures. I've got 7 different people who called out Kyler, directly or indirectly. The new GM, the owner, Kingsbury, Larry Fitzgerald's dad, Patrick Peterson. I think we're getting to a point now where it may be just time to eventually have a 1-year plan to move off him.
I don't know if you can do that, though. I mean, if you look at the contract, they're sort of married to him for the next couple of years. And I think that's part of the problem here, Colin. Now, there's always a way to move guys off your roster, and I'm not saying that'd be impossible, but I mean, you'd be talking about like eating a lot of money and putting yourself in a weird spot in 2024. And I think that's part of what becomes the deterrent here. The flip side is there is a long-term rebuild that's needed here. If you look at the roster, their best players, some of their best players are older. You know, DeAndre Hopkins, J.J. Watt's obviously retired, but he had a dynamite year last year. Budda Baker on the back end, you know, he's got a lot of mileage now too. And so, you know, you look at where they are logistically with a new general manager, you're probably talking about a 2 to 3 year process of getting the roster where it needs to be. Do you trust that Monty Ossenfort's the guy who's very well respected? Do you trust that he's the guy to build the roster back up? How fast can you do it? How do you handle the Kyler situation? There's a lot of different questions when you look at where the Cardinals are right now that make it a difficult job going forward. Kyler's contract is part of it, no question about it. But there's a longer-term rebuild that I think is necessary here when you look at the way the roster was built over the last few years, where they did have those older players in the roster. And you look at it and you say, okay, like it's going to take some time. Are you willing to put in that time? Do you think you're going to be good enough to make it to a third or fourth year? And do you trust that Monty Ossenfort's the guy to get the Cardinals roster there? To me, like that will be the big question for head coaching candidates looking at that job.
Aaron Rodgers, another shot at the Packers. Well, they're doing some things without me, which is interesting. They've already said it's AFC. Mm-hmm. Report today, the Jets are all in. You can tell me that Miami loves Tua. I'll believe it. You know, they said that before Deshaun Watson, Brady rumors. Is there a leader in the clubhouse in the AFC to you?
I think the Jets, just because I think their owner is going to be involved. I look at where they are, and it sort of mirrors where they were in 2008 and 2016, where the owner felt like they were close, and so the owner may be looking to make a splash. Now, if you look in 2008, it was coming off of a down year, but they wanted to find out about Eric Mangini, and so they went and got Brett Favre. And, I mean, for most of that season, it actually worked. And then in 2016, coming off the first year of Todd Bowles, 10 wins. They brought a lot of older players back, and it didn't work. I think it's sort of where they are right now, where they were 7-4 through 11 games last year. And I think Woody Johnson believes that's who his team is before the quarterback situation went sideways, before they had the rash of injuries with guys like Breece Hall and Oliveira Tucker going down. So he feels like they're close. And I think his involvement is why you've got to take the Jets very, very seriously. And I can tell you for a fact, like they discussed, like before hiring Nathaniel Hackett, like the implications of that. And they're not shying away from the idea that Hackett could be a carrot for Rodgers. So I put the Jets at the top of the list. I think the Raiders are worth watching too. You look at some of the moves they made last year, and bringing in Devontae Adams and bringing in Chandler Jones, and I think they misjudged the roster to a point, but they've got some good pieces there. You know, you go to the two guys I just mentioned, to Josh Jacobs, to Colton Miller. Would Aaron Rodgers attract some more people there? Would it be attractive geographically for Aaron Rodgers? Having Adams there is a big deal. The Raiders are one team that I sort of have tucked away as they got a high draft pick. They've got some room to work. They've got some maneuverability when it comes to the salary cap. And they could, you know, offer this landing spot where Aaron Rodgers could win right away. So I think the Jets are at the top of the list, but the Raiders are a team I would keep an eye on too.
Eagles, Chiefs, Super Bowl. What's the big storyline to you?
I think if we're talking about like a 10-year storyline here, it's where Patrick Mahomes is, you know, and I think it's what he's accomplished early in his career and how it sort of mirrors where Tom Brady was early in his career, where he won 3 Super Bowls in his first 5 years, 3 Super Bowls in his first 4 years starting. It's remarkable when you look at Patrick Mahomes' resume right now. He's about to win his second league MVP. He's played 5 home AFC title games, and he's been to 3 Super Bowls with a chance now to win his second Super Bowl. If he wins his second Super Bowl, I'm not saying he's going to catch Brady when it comes to the level of accomplishment, but it looks like he's going in that direction. And, oh, by the way, he's only 27 years old. And so, like, there are a lot of smaller storylines here, no question. Andy Reid versus the Eagles, the Kelsey brothers. There's lots of great stuff for us to talk about. But to me, the one, like, lasting storyline that could come out of this Super Bowl is Mahomes, the beginning of Mahomes being spoken about in a historic context because of what he's accomplished before his 28th birthday. It's absolutely staggering. And again, I think it puts him on the sort of trajectory that Brady was on after he won his third Super Bowl. I think that was also at 27 years old.
Albert Breer, Monday Morning Quarterback. Good seeing you, my man. Have a good Friday and a weekend. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.